Hi, and we're back in my kitchen. Again, I'm Crystal. We're making sourdough pizza crust. And when I last left you, I had showed you the beginning of the pizza crust before I added the flour. And if you recall, we're using 4 cups of flour in this recipe. And as I predicted, I can't get all of the flour into the dough, which is fine. That's part of how I make the pizza crust. But you can see I started with 4 cups and, oops, I just got flour on myself. I have about just a little bit more than a half a cup left, maybe 3/4 of a cup. So I was able to get about 3 1/4 cups of flour into the dough. And I want to show you now what the dough looks like. So I'll bring it a little closer. So hopefully you can see that. So the dough, when I touch it, I can indent it and my fingers come out clean, which is great. And if you touch it and your fingers don't come out clean and it's just there's a little bit of sourdough on there, that's okay. We're not going for perfection here, we're just going for good pizza crust, and that'll still be really good pizza crust, so not to worry. So what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna turn this out onto my floured countertop, and I'm gonna not work with it very much at all. I just want to shape it into a little like a log so that I can cut it into 8 equal pieces, and then we'll go from there. So let me get a rubber scraper to get the dough out of the pan. And if I didn't mention it, you want to make sure that your countertops are nice and clean, and then just put a little bit of flour. And again, I only use my King Arthur bread flour. Any unbleached flour will be fine. Doesn't necessarily have to be your King Arthur brand. Okay. And you can see it sticks a little bit, but for the most part, it's coming out pretty clean. The key to this is when you're mixing it with the flour, you don't want to take a long time doing it, because the longer you work with it, the tougher it gets. So I've got it here now on my countertop. I know it's kind of hard to see in the video, so I'll pick it up for you in just a second. But I'm just very lightly rolling it on top of the flour and trying to shape it into a log. Actually, it almost looks like a baguette. And at this point, I can pick it up and just show it to you. So see how it's just like it looks like a baguette, really. So I'm going to just shape that in that way, and then let me see if I can just turn the camera down a little bit more for you to see a little better. Okay, all right, take one of my sharp knives, and I just have to give a shout out to my friend George for sharpening my knives for me very recently. So let's see here. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to take my knife. I'm just going to cut it into even pieces. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, and then let me show you what these look like. So now that I've cut them into 8 pieces, my finished dough, you can see that I can hold one in the palm of my hand. It's not, well, let's see if I can do a little better with the video there. Kind of give you an idea of the size and the shape for each one. And they're pretty even in size. So again, this recipe will make 8 pizza crusts. So each one of these is the perfect quantity for 1 pizza crust. Let me just adjust that ever so slightly. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I have my stack of pizza dough tins. My husband got me these for my birthday a few years ago at the Restaurant Depot. I used to just use bowls from the kitchen cabinet, and those will work just fine too. And what I did was I've learned that what works good for me is if I put just a little bit of olive oil into each of the tins. probably shouldn't have touched that. Okay, there we go. So I've got just a little tiny bit of olive oil in each one. So I'm gonna put my dough in here, and this is how I'm gonna let them rise. Okay, and I just put them all in and stack them up. One of the things I find interesting about sourdough is how much it rises and spreads. And the longer you let it sit before you work with it, the more the gluten breaks down. And that's how I like it. Okay, and as I'm putting them in the tins, I'm just giving them a little toss in the olive oil. If you have a little bit of olive oil underneath and a little bit on top, you'll see what it looks like when they're done tomorrow. I'm just checking to make sure I rolled each one. Yep, I did, okay. The olive oil on the bottom makes it easier to turn them out when you're ready to roll out your crust. And then the olive oil on top will help each of the pizza crust form like a thick little crust on its own in the dough before you even cooked it. And that is actually very helpful when you're rolling them out to make your pizza. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is you wanna let these rest in a warm spot in your kitchen. And you don't want there to be a cold draft, and you don't need your oven on, but what I do is, see how I have my oven already set up here. I cleaned everything off, which was mostly just the tea kettle. Okay, and I've got the oven hood light on. So I'm just gonna go ahead and arrange these on top of the stove with the light on. Okay, hopefully you can see that okay. Right, okay, I just lay them out like that. I've got the light on, and then I take a tea towel, which my mother-in-law gave me these from Italy. I don't know if you can see them. They're just nice limoncello towels, but they're perfect to cover my pizza dough, and they just perfectly cover my 8 tins. One towel perfectly covers my 8 tins. So that's it for now. Now I'm gonna let those sit till tomorrow evening. It's currently Sunday evening. I'll let them sit till Monday evening. And then they should be ready, and we'll do the next step at that time. Okay, see you tomorrow.